Even 3 years after release, there are still things that many of you guys might not know about Borderlands 3, so whether you've been playing since launch or you're brand new to the game, these are my top 10 best features that you might have missed.
It's a top 10 list. Do we really need to say we're starting with 10?
Coming in at number 10 is Lost Loot Enabling. The Lost Loot Machine in Sanctuary is single-handedly one of the best new features in the franchise. Say you clear an area and somehow you miss a legendary item, or it lands on a ledge and you can't reach it, or it falls off a map and you can't get to it. The Lost Loot Machine will retrieve that item and have it for you when you return to Sanctuary. But a question I still get a lot is, why isn't my Lost Loot Machine working? Basically, if you choose to start a new character and you select the classic Borderlands loot system, it disables the Lost Loot Machine. I don't know why that is, but it is. You can, however, change this at any time on the main menu screen by clicking on this cog and switching your game to cooperative mode, which honestly you should be doing anyhow if you're playing with other people. That way you're not fighting over drops. Everybody gets their own drop. Bonus tip for the Lost Loot Machine: use it to quickly unlock weapon SDUs on new characters. Just farm a few bosses on your old max level character and leave all of your junk laying around on the ground. And now when you make a new character, you can raid that Lost Loot Machine and get those items to sell them quickly to make fast cash.
Now let's see number 9.
At number 9, speaking of new characters, Borderlands 3 luckily includes an option for anybody who owns any story DLC content. It allows you to do a story skip to level 13, putting you right on the bridge in Sanctuary. This is a great option for anybody that wants to make a new character but hates those early tutorial style quests that just slow things down. It will start you with random gear, and you can always go back to any of the earlier maps that got skipped during this if you want to later on. Now choose Create New Game and then select any of the DLCs that you own on that list. This will not force you directly into that DLC, although it will make that your current active mission, which you can just change by toggling the active mission. This is also a quick and easy way to make yourself a mule character to store gear on in case you run out of room in your bank. Just make a new character, skip them immediately to Sanctuary, then name them Pistol Mule or Sniper Mule or whatever, and then grab a bunch of items from the vault to house on this character. Bonus points if you use the Lost Loot Machine trick from earlier to open up extra backpack slots on your mule to maximize their hauling potential.
Don't hate, it's number 8.
And number 8, using photo mode to do some tricky stuff. Now, photo mode was an amazing feature added in with Borderlands 3. Finally, a way to take some awesome screenshots of your decked out characters, but it also allows you to do some other sneakier stuff. One of my favorites is using photo mode to slide through bars or other non-solid geometry to open up chests. This chest room in the Droughts can be accessed by sneaking through these bars, for example. The Bounty of Blood bank chest can be obtained right at the start of the DLC by jumping and going into photo mode and then going through the ceiling, allowing you to get the Dakota shotgun right at the start of the DLC. And the bonus room beside Mouthpieces Arena can be robbed early by jumping and going into photo mode, then squeezing through this gap. Now, the trick on all of these is that you have to exit photo mode and quickly hit the button to either unlock the door or open up the chest. Then you have to go back into photo mode and get right up to the item, exit photo mode, grab it quickly. This might take a few tries to get the hang of it, but can yield you some sweet loot without having to do any extra work.
Let's see number 7.
And number 7 is universal crossplay. Now, it took a while for this to actually come to fruition, but according to most sources, this was on Sony for trying to charge for the service, while Steam, Epic, and Xbox were all okay with it without any additional costs. But crossplay between all platforms is now available in Borderlands 3. Being able to play with your friends despite being on different platforms is a really awesome feature. Now, one downside to this, however, is the rise in modded gear that ends up on console versions of the game due to being able to play with PC players. So it's still best to only play with people you know, and that way you can avoid all the modded gear and other problems that PC players can cause you.
And now for number 6.
At number 6, the True Proving Grounds. Added in the final patch, Gearbox gave us an option to toggle a switch at the start of any of the 6 Proving Grounds maps that would make the final boss have raid level health, damage, and gear drops. This added instant bonus in-game content and became a great way to farm for some awesome gear like the Flipper, the Monarch, Boomsicle, Skullmasher, Chaosin, and more. Toggling the switch will also guarantee the final chest to have legendary class mods and or artifacts when you defeat the boss. That is, if your build is strong enough to do it. These bosses are crazy tanky, each one being the equivalent of like a Terramorphous fight from Borderlands 2, in that they're strong, have lots of HP, and they have limited mechanics, but at least they're generally much more rewarding than Terramorphous was. If you're having trouble beating these bosses or any other bosses, make sure you check out my builds playlist in the description of this video. Now, speaking of Proving Grounds, one of the coolest changes was made when Gearbox made it so you get guaranteed legendary drops from the final chest when you complete a Proving Grounds run with all the bonus objectives complete. This does not require you to toggle that switch at the beginning like I was just now talking about. This is when you do Proving Grounds normally. This is a great way to get legendary class mods and artifacts as well, and since class mods and artifacts do not get Mayhem level scaling, this means you can technically run the Proving Grounds on Mayhem 1 with Speed Demon as your modifier, get to the final boss lightning fast, and score yourself some sweet loot. These chests have yielded me some amazing class mods, and I've gotten a couple of cut purse launch pads and multiple other quality artifacts from them.
And here we are at number 5!
Coming in at number 5, the Schluter artifact from DLC 6, the Director's Cut, can be used for guaranteed legendary items from chests. Now, this one can almost be considered pay to win, but that flies in the face of all the people who claim that it's too easy to get legendary loot in Borderlands 3 anyway, so you make that call. Now, the Schluter special ability is that it gives you 1,000% loot quality increase. Now, those of you guys that have been watching my God Roll Revolter farms know that I've been using it to try and get bonus world drops of the Revolter, and that brings me to an important point that a lot of players seem confused about. The Schluter does not increase dedicated drop chances. So for example, if I'm hunting for a soul render, which can only drop from Tom and Zam in DLC 2, having the Schluter on will not increase their odds of dropping it or dropping a second copy of it, since it cannot world drop. But if I'm farming for an Anarchy shotgun in DLC 2, for example, it can world drop from any named enemy in the DLC, which is why I used the Schluter and farmed a mock. Same thing for my God Roll Revolter farm. Since the Revolter can world drop from any named enemy, Sumo can actually drop 2 in a run this way. But back to my opening sentence on this item. You can use the Schluter before opening up any red chest to get almost 100% guaranteed legendary drops from the chest. Simply kill an enemy before popping the chest while wearing the Schluter and enjoy the spoils. You can also blow up your own vehicle to count as a kill to trigger it, as you can see here in this footage from the droughts on Pandora.
Okay, here we are at number 4!
One of the most important things that a lot of players don't know about is that Mayhem 10 and Mayhem 11 are 100% identical, except on Mayhem 11 you do not have to deal with modifiers. If you're like me, and a lot of other players, the modifiers nearly scared me off of the game. Rerolling them is frustrating at best, and I find the added challenge of modifiers to be less quote-unquote difficult and more mind-numbingly annoying. Simply set your game to Mayhem 11, and despite what it says on the screen, I guarantee you that the two modes actually do give the exact same level of experience points, iridium, money, and loot. This has been confirmed by data miners, and it can be confirmed simply by just going and farming a boss on Mayhem 10 and then again on Mayhem 11, and you can see that it's exact same XP and iridium. So make the change to Mayhem 11. Trust me, life is so much better without modifiers.
And number 3!
At number 3, Maurices Black Market Vendor. This is such a cool lesser known feature that it was basically one of the 2 main inspirations for me making this video. The other being the sheer volume of questions I get about why people's lost loot machine wasn't working. Anyhow, Maurice, our Sarion friend on Sanctuary who gives you the Bloody Harvest Cartels and Broken Hearts event quests, also has a vending machine that travels around the map from week to week. Destiny players will be familiar with this concept as being similar to Xur, a traveling merchant that moves around selling rare items. Well, like Xur, Maurice has some nice rare gear in his machine every single week. This inventory changes every Thursday around 12 p.m. noon Eastern, and the location where you will find it will move as well. Now, in the past, I've had things like the Boomsicle, God Roll light shows, God Roll hex grenades, God Roll backburners, head explosions, even the Becca, which you can normally only get 1 time per character from completing the Hammerlock hunts. Now, one thing that confuses a lot of people the first time that they use the machine is how it will disappear for the character you're on after you use it. Don't freak out. It comes back after 30 minutes of in-game time, just like the red chests do. Conversely, you can hop on a different character and head to the machine to loot it again with them as well. Now, each time you check the machine, the inventory will change a little bit. It'll still have the same 3 items each week, but you can get different rolls for each of those 3 items. Use this to try and get God rolls of the items that you're after.
Number 2!
Coming in at number 2, Cartels, Bloody Harvest, and Broken Hearts events are now free and permanent for everybody. Anytime you want to do any of these bonus events that used to be limited time seasonal activities, you can do them just by enabling them on the main menu now. Simply go to the option where it says Events Disabled and switch that to whichever one you want. Then go to Sanctuary, visit Maurice, and you can start things in motion. The Cartels, without a doubt, is one of my all-time favorite pieces of content in any Borderlands game, so for this to be free is just mind-blowing to me. And then the Captain Hot fight in Bloody Harvest has some of the coolest music in franchise history, and the fight itself has cool raid boss-like mechanics. Now, speaking of raid boss mechanics, both Joey Ultraviolet from the Cartels and Haunt from the Bloody Harvest now have raid boss level health and damage when you battle them in Mayhem mode. And again, just like with True Proving Grounds toggle, this adds instant in-game. And both of these bosses have some of the best loot in the game as well, from the Grease Trap, Needle Gun, OPQ system, Yellow Cake, No Pew Pew, Gas Call, and Fearmonger. Now, I know it sounds like I'm not talking about Broken Hearts at all, but here's something really cool about the Broken Hearts event. If you're doing a playthrough on the game and you want an easy way to get second wins, have the Broken Hearts event enabled. That gives you hearts with most enemies, which you can shoot to get a second wind.
Honorable mention.
Honorable mention goes to the Crazy Earl Anointment Reroll machine. It seems there's still quite a few players who left the game before this was introduced because probably they were frustrated by anointments, and I fully understand that. And they had no idea that this feature was ever even implemented. I still think it's a bit cost prohibitive at 250 iridium per reroll, but still, if you have the iridium and you want a new anointment on an item, this is such a great feature that allows you to avoid farming for hours or in some cases days to get that perfect anointment roll on your weapon, shield, or grenade.
And finally, here we are at number 1!
Finally, at number 1, True Vault Hunter mode and normal mode are identical when you have Mayhem mode enabled. I know a lot of people love doing a New Game Plus mode on Borderlands games. I am not one of those people personally. I like playing the story one time and then getting deep into the in-game side of things. Luckily, Borderlands 3 accommodates both player types beautifully. After beating normal mode, Tannis has you go to the Mayhem machine and enable it. At this point, if you want, you can completely bypass True Vault Hunter mode. Just enable Mayhem 1, and enemies, loot, and everything else that you get with True Vault Hunter mode will be applied in normal mode as well. However, if you love doing that second playthrough, it's there as a completely optional New Game Plus mode. With Mayhem turned off, True Vault Hunter mode is a bit harder than normal, and it does allow you to take your geared character through the story and even DLCs again. This can also be used to get max level quest rewards as well. Another cool feature with unlocking True Vault Hunter mode is that you can actually use normal mode to travel back to Sanctuary without messing up your True Vault Hunter mode location. Say for example you're farming sumo for Revolter, but you need to quickly head back to Sanctuary and stash some loot to make room in your inventory. Well, it's a long run over to sumo, so just save quit, switch your game mode to normal, and then reload your game. Now you can travel to Sanctuary on normal mode, stash your loot, save and quit, then switch back to True Vault Hunter mode, and it'll put you right back where you left off in True Vault Hunter mode at sumo. This will save you massive amounts of time when you're farming enemies that are at the end of huge maps. So let me know in the comment section down below, what lesser known features do you guys think are the best in Borderlands 3? If you enjoyed this video, please take a second to hit that like button, hit subscribe for more Borderlands content, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.